Christian Vikernes was born in Bergen, Norway, in 1973. He grew up in a middle-class family. His father was an electronics engineer and his mother worked for an oil company. As a child, Vikernes developed an interest in music. He was drawn to the heavy sounds of Iron Maiden. Vikernes also became fascinated by the fantasy world of J.R.R. Tolkien. This interest led him to explore Norse mythology and paganism. These themes would later become central to his music and ideology. In his teenage years, Vikernes immersed himself in the growing black metal scene. This extreme form of heavy metal was known for its dark and raw sound. It often featured anti-Christian lyrics and imagery. In 1991, Vikernes formed Burzum. This solo project would become one of the most influential bands in the Norwegian black metal scene. Burzum's music was raw, minimalistic, and atmospheric. Vikernes' unique style helped to define the sound of early black metal. Vikernes, who adopted the name Varg, meaning wolf in Norwegian, quickly gained notoriety. His music reflected his growing interest in paganism and Norse mythology. He rejected Christianity, seeing it as a foreign religion forced upon Scandinavia. His lyrics often explored themes of darkness, nature, and ancient Scandinavian beliefs. Vikernes' extreme views and abrasive music made him a controversial figure. As Burzum's popularity grew, Vikernes became a central figure in the Norwegian black metal scene. He befriended other musicians. One of these was Øystein Aarseth, better known as Euronymous. Euronymous was the guitarist of Mayhem, another highly influential black metal band. Vikernes joined Mayhem as bassist in 1993. He appeared on their landmark album, De Mysteriis Dom Sathanas. However, despite their shared passion for black metal, Vikernes and Euronymous had ideological differences. Vikernes was a staunch pagan and nationalist. He became increasingly interested in far-right ideologies. Euronymous, on the other hand, identified as a Satanist and held communist beliefs. The tension between the two grew. They engaged in bitter arguments and rivalries. Their disagreements went beyond music and ideology. There were accusations of arson and violence. Several churches in Norway were burned down during this period. Some suspected Vikernes of involvement, but he was never convicted. The conflict between Vikernes and Euronymous reached a tragic climax on August 10, 1993. Vikernes fatally stabbed Euronymous in his apartment. The murder shocked the black metal community and sent shockwaves through Norway. Vikernes was arrested shortly after. He claimed he acted in self-defense, alleging that Euronymous was planning to torture and kill him. However, the court found him guilty of murder. Vikernes was sentenced to 21 years in prison, the maximum sentence in Norway. He was also convicted of church arsons and possession of explosives. Vikernes spent the next 16 years of his life incarcerated. He continued to be a controversial figure during his time in prison. Vikernes remained unrepentant about his crimes. He used his time behind bars to further develop his ideology. He wrote extensively on paganism, nationalism, and far-right politics. He released a book, Vargsmal, a collection of essays and interviews. It outlined his views on religion, politics, and culture. Despite the restrictions of prison life, Vikernes continued to make music. He released 2 Burzum albums while incarcerated. These albums, Dowdy Balders and Hlidskjalf, were entirely instrumental. They featured ambient and neoclassical influences. These albums showcased a different side of Vikernes' musical creativity. They demonstrated his ability to evolve beyond the raw aggression of early Burzum. While in prison, Vikernes also formed the Norwegian Heathen Front. This was a pagan organization promoting Norse mythology and traditional Scandinavian beliefs. However, he later distanced himself from the group, claiming it had become too moderate for his views. In 2009, Vikernes was released from prison on parole. He returned to society a changed man, or so it seemed. He changed his legal name to Louis Cachet. However, he continued to use the name Varg Vikernes. He resumed his musical career as Burzum. Vikernes released several more albums. These albums explored a range of styles, incorporating elements of ambient, folk, and experimental music. His lyrics remained deeply personal and often controversial, touching on themes of nature, mythology, and his own experiences. Despite attempts to distance himself from his past, Vikernes continued to court controversy. In 2013, he was arrested in France. Authorities suspected him of planning a terrorist act after he sent a copy of a manifesto written by Anders Breivik to his wife. Breivik was the far-right extremist who carried out the 2011 Norway attacks. Vikernes was later released due to lack of evidence. However, he was convicted of inciting racial hatred in 2014. This was based on online writings where he made discriminatory remarks about Jews and Muslims. He received a suspended sentence and a fine. Varg Vikernes remains a complex and enigmatic figure. He is a talented musician who helped shape the sound of black metal. However, his legacy is intertwined with violence, hatred, and extremism. His story is a cautionary tale, highlighting the dangers of unchecked ideology and the dark side of artistic expression. While some celebrate him as a musical pioneer, others condemn him as a dangerous ideologue. His music and writings continue to generate debate and controversy. One thing is certain, the name Varg Vikernes will forever be linked to the history of black metal and its darkest chapter.